there, everyone, and welcome back to the second episode of Spaces Uncovered. Thanks so much for tuning in again today on this platform and for being part of my adventure in discovering how to host my first video podcast series. It's been a huge learning curve, but I hope you're all enjoying it. Secondly, I'm sure you may have seen the nomination video released at the end of last year revealing the next featured designer, and luckily we have her on the stage today. Her name is Kingsnorth from Mak Interiors, and we'll be uncovering one of her projects called Axiom Zen, located in Vancouver, BC. Hey Amber, welcome to the show today.
Thanks for having me.
We're very excited to have you here. So why don't we start by having you give us a little bit of background on yourself.
Well, I'm the principal and founder of Mak Interiors, and we're a small design studio here in Vancouver, which I run with my partner Colin. As the principal, I wear a lot of different hats, I do a lot of different things, so we have a small, nimble team who works on a variety of projects, commercial and residential, but our main focus is workplace and kind of a lot of branded interiors.
I can imagine that'd be a lot to balance. You're wearing many hats in your role, and yeah, that's tough to do. But I know you've been doing this for a while. Did you always know that you wanted to be an interior designer?
Definitely not, no. I grew up around construction, as my dad was a builder. So I knew about that world, but I really didn't know interior design was a job. I was kind of planning to go to medical school, and I was at one point, I think in my fourth year of a science degree, I was in a lab, like a chem lab, and some colleagues were just talking about how they were going to do a summer internship at another lab, and I just thought, no, I don't want to spend my summer at a lab. This is not for me. I think I need to use the creative side of my brain, so I dropped the rest of my semester's classes, and I enrolled in design school, and that was that.
Well, at least you discovered it early, and I mean, I know me being an interior designer, I was absolutely horrible at science, and I hated it, and so it's impressive that you're good at both sides, arts and science. It's rare to find as an interior designer.
I find design is a good balance of them.
Yeah. So now, going back to your client, what does Axiom Zen do exactly?
Well, we work with a lot of tech companies, and they are, they fall under that umbrella, but they're unique in that they're a startup that builds other startups. So they have this umbrella brand, and then under that, they have a few other, they have lots of properties that they've developed themselves or with other people. So that could be apps or software, hardware. So they're a unique client in that sense. And they were coming from a space that was fairly brand new, but wasn't tailored to them. So that's kind of where they came into our lives.
And when did you take on this project, and why was it of interest to your firm?
It was the summer of 2018, and we actually pitched the project with Fusion Projects, who's a design build firm we work with quite often, so we're always keen to work with them. And then really the interest with this client was just their business model. Super interesting. I'm a little bit of a business nerd myself. I really like to dig deep and find out, what makes these businesses tick and how they work, and figure out, what's their brand all about. So there's that element. And then just the fact that they had a pretty new space. They were outgrowing it, of course, but just the fact that they really wanted something tailored to them. And unique to their brand is always appealing to us. And then their design brief was they wanted it to be like Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
Willy Wonka, wow.
Yeah, you can imagine is a mind explosion for any designer that, you get to kind of really play with the space.
That's great. You don't have clients putting forward that kind of idea too often.
No.
So what was that existing brand identity for the space that kind of dictated the aesthetic for the project?
Well, like I said, they have kind of two levels. So the umbrella brand itself, Axiom Zen, has more of a tailored look to it. It's contemporary, it's fresh, it's this black and white sans serif font. So a little bit more architectural, I'd say. And then below that, they've got all these brands that are a little bit more fun and quirky and colorful. So we really had to balance the idea of kind of a crisp and clean interior, but then this idea of these candy-coated colors kind of brought through the space.
Candy-coated colors? That's nice. It is nice to have a little bit of a blank slate that you can pull from the existing brand. That way you have this opportunity to bring in energetic pops of color throughout the space in your design. It's a good design opportunity. Mm-hmm. And then, other than aesthetics, did your client have any goals that they wanted to see through in the vision?
Yeah, so other than a space that was really tailored to their brand, they really wanted to emphasize the idea of people having these random collisions, because they have lots of different teams that work on specific brands, they didn't want everyone to feel like they were in a silo. So they really wanted the space to encourage people to meet up that don't always work together. So that was really part of the design intent of the space. So creating this central hub versus the idea of having little neighborhoods for each team.
So you mentioned that the plan is very long and narrow. I can imagine that would be difficult to create space planning efficiencies. How did you manage that?
Yeah, so we'd actually worked on a couple other floors in the building already, so we were quite familiar with the building, which, as I mentioned, is narrow. But we really wanted to do something different for these guys. And of course, playing on that Willy Wonka theme, we decided to integrate the idea of that chocolate river that flows through the factory.
A chocolate river? I need to know more about that.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't really chocolate, obviously, but it was essentially this meandering pathway that kind of brings you through each of the team areas and then through the central meeting area as well. So it really encourages people to have these collisions, which are key to their business model, really. They want people to come up with these crazy, innovative ideas at all times. So having people come together is really important for them. And then at the end of the river, if you will, is their town hall space. So it kind of all opens up into this big, open, colorful area where they can have big town hall meetings or have community events. And then also they wanted a library where people could get away from their desks and away from the hustle of the office and have some quiet, reflective time. So we did that as well. And of course, all of this is based around this Willy Wonka theme. So we put like a secret passageway in the library and things like that.
Wow, secret passageway. I mean, that's interesting. And we were seeing a lot of that these days. We saw it in the first episode and we're seeing it again now. And I do like that. I think it adds an element of surprise and also it kind of brings you back to your childhood memories, which I like. Mm-hmm. And was the design post-concept development, was that a smooth process all the way to the finish line?
Well, we had moved quite quickly through the project because it was a bit of a tight timeline, and we had really nailed the functionality of the space, the space planning, but we're struggling a little bit with the finish scheme, mostly because of those several brands in the mix. It really was like almost the rainbow was at our disposal. So trying to nail that down was difficult. And maybe halfway through the process, Axiom Zen had actually brought on a design director for one of their key brands. And sometimes having a new person in the mix at that point can be a challenge because they haven't been around the whole process. But in this case, it was actually really great. We were so grateful to have her because she had, a real critical eye about their brand, and it let us really kind of edit down the color palette and come up with the end result, which turned out really well.
And looking back, do you think there's anything you would have done differently to kind of avoid this design pivot?
Probably not, no. I feel like it was just part of the journey, really. I think, something that we've learned a lot with our tech clients is that being open to making some mistakes or some missteps and really having a critical eye on your own design is really important. So I think we wouldn't have got to the end result if we hadn't, been sort of at a bit of a crossroads at one point.
And how did you feel when you realized you had to do this redesign kind of halfway through? I can imagine that'd be a tough pill to swallow.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, it's definitely stressful. I mean, even when a client can't articulate to you that it's maybe you haven't nailed it yet, you get that feeling. You know that something is not quite right, it's not sitting right. So, as a designer, I think that's one of like the really important things is realizing that you can't be too precious about your design. We can all be very perfectionistic and detail-oriented, which is great for implementing a design. But when you're in that design phase, you kind of have to experiment and push the client a little bit and, really figure out what those boundaries are, like what's too safe for them, what's too risky. And you're gonna hit those edges, and then that's gonna bring you right to the middle, which is where you wanna be. I mean, you want the space to be right for them, not right for, us.
That's great insight, and I think that's good perspective for the rest of the industry to hear as well. It's refreshing to hear that authenticity. So, knowing that this was completed before the pandemic, do you think that the adaptive design environment that you created will be suitable for the new way of working? And are you doing anything to support Axiom Zen in the return to the office now that we have a vaccine?
Yeah, so we've actually been in touch with them recently about looking at their office again. Of course, they haven't been in the office for quite some time, and they're an expanding company. So despite, the COVID slowdown, they've been growing. So they've brought on new people, and they want everyone to still feel involved in the office, even though maybe not everyone comes back. I mean, they have distance people who might never come to Vancouver. So we're really, looking into that, and to be honest, I'm excited about it. I think it's a real opportunity for everyone to reassess their office space and see, what do they need, what do they not need, and how can they really, what are the things that people want to come to the office for when they can potentially do heads down work at home. So I think it's a very exciting time for workplace design.
I agree. I agree. I don't believe the office is dead. I think it's been reimagined and forever changed. But
Totally.
Yeah, and I think the COVID regulations, they're evolving at such a rapid pace that, research is having a hard time keeping up. And I do think that someone like you, a designer, and actually myself as working for a global company, we have this opportunity to be able to lead these client conversations supported by research and market insights and start to impact and shape what the future has to hold for the office. And I think it's actually an exciting time because as designers and furniture vendors, it's really forcing us to think outside the box about what our solutions can be, and that's always a good thing, I think.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah.
So what advice would you give to someone that's at the start of creating a branded design environment for their client?
I think, exploring brand is all about asking the right questions and starting a dialogue. Like, brand is a lot of it is really about a feeling that you have about an experience with a company or an experience in a company. So whether you're having that conversation about brand internally as a company or if it's more of a design discussion, I think you want to talk a lot about how you feel about it, what kind of what emotions come up for you, because brand and interiors are both really about a feeling, and I think if you focus on that, you're going to get to the right end result.
That's great advice. I think it's so important to understand how to ask the right questions out of your client to really grasp what their vision is for the brand and implementing it into the space. In fact, I think research shows that most people they form a subconscious opinion on a place based on the first 90 seconds of seeing it.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah, so actually, I think it's between 60 and 90% of people form those opinions based on color alone, which is really interesting.
Wow.
So one question I think would be great to ask your clients is, what does your space say to employees and their customers within the first 90 seconds?
Exactly. That's a question we ask our clients a lot. Yeah. Or what do they want them to feel like versus maybe what they might feel now.
Yeah. I love that. And for tips and tricks on how to ask the right questions and how to learn about what color can do and allow people to do their most inspired work within the space, subscribe through my website, and I'd be happy to send resources and links because in my role, I really hope to help people succeed in their roles. Thank you again, Amber, for being part of the show today. It's been great uncovering your beautiful space, and I truly am very excited to see who you're going to nominate next and how you're going to do it because the bar has been set.
That is exciting. I can't wait. Thanks for having me.
Thanks. And for those of you tuning in today, thank you for the support again. Be sure to smash that like button and subscribe.